Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So, inshallah, in this video, we want to talk about Ramadan in Yemen. Ramadan, not just in Yemen, but specifically in Dammaj, and also just like Ramadan in Yemen in general, but specifically Ramadan in Dammaj. Because, I mean, obviously, as we're getting closer to Ramadan, and we talk about preparation, and we talk about also how the Prophet ﷺ, how he would go about, how serious he would take Ramadan. And that, and we see this also from the actions of the Sahaba, and we see this from the actions of all the people that came after the Sahaba and following the correct guidance, that they would, throughout the whole entire year, they had certain acts of worship that they did. Like the Prophet ﷺ, there's nothing that he did in Ramadan that he did not do outside of Ramadan. Okay, so fasting, he fasted outside of Ramadan. He fasted Yom al-Ithnain wa Yom al-Khamis, which is Monday and Thursdays. He fasted the Ayyam al-Bayd. He fasted the days of the, where the full moon was present at night. All right, and then he fasted throughout Muharram. He used to fast a lot. And Sha'ban, he used to fast a lot. So this was his common practice, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also with Qiyam al-Layl, it was his practice to always, even when he was traveling, he would always pray witr. He would either, if he couldn't get if he was in the process of traveling, he would even pray while he was riding on the back of the animal that he was riding on. So this is a custom that he never left off. So praying at night at tahajjud, this is the custom of the Prophet ﷺ, and also the recitation of the Quran. So as we know from a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ كان يذكر الله سبحانه وتعالى على كل أحواله. And if so like in any situation that he was in, that he would always mention, كان يذكر الله في هذا في كل الأحوال. In all of his states that he was in, he would always remember Allah. So whether he was lying down, whether he was standing up, whether he was whatever he was doing, he would always be busy with the remembrance of Allah. And of course, the best remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the recitation of His word, is the recitation of His book. So when Ramadan came in, the Prophet ﷺ did not do something new, like what the custom of what you see amongst a lot of the people today is. They start to do the acts of worship that they don't do outside of Ramadan. So they start to recite the Quran. They don't read the Quran outside of Ramadan. They start to pray at night. They don't pray at night. And of course, the fasting, the majority of the people, unfortunately, they don't fast. Allahumma musta'an. So the way that you see with the Prophet ﷺ is that when he used to go into Ramadan, he would take the same acts of worship that he did on a regular basis. He would take it to the next level. He would take it to the next level, and you also see this in the lives of the Salaf, and then this of course is what I'm talking about. When you look at the people that follow that type of guidance, you see that same pattern, the same how can I say this, maximum output in Ramadan. Because they're doing things that they do throughout the year, but when it comes time for Ramadan, they take that worship to the next level, and then they get more like even though they're serious about it throughout the year, but they become more serious about it. So if somebody were to ask me, for example, what was Ramadan like in Dammaj, as I guess the people that are subscribed to my channel, either whether Telegram or YouTube, that I previously finished writing a book that's available now on Amazon, which is it's a handbook. It's a believer's handbook for Ramadan, and in this book I go through all the different issues of Ramadan, all the things that you need to know. So I start off with the history of Ramadan, and I go through like the beginning, sighting the new moon, going through the beginning of the fast, which is a sahur, actually going first through the intentions of fasting, then going through sahur, then all the way up into the things that break your fast, that cause your fast to become null and void, all the way up until you break your fast. And then I have different chapters dealing with like Qiyam al-Layl, recitation of the Quran, and so on and so forth. So all of these chapters, if you were to take that book and read that book in its entirety, that's basically Ramadan and Dammaj back in the days. Everything that you read from the sunnah that you see that the Prophet ﷺ used to do, or if you read from the athar of the Salaf that they used to do, you will find that that's what you would have seen in Dammaj. So just to give you like some insight, like maybe the first 10 nights, people would be inviting each other There's like invitations where people will like maybe invite you over for iftar. But iftar in Dammaj is very, it's not like a, it's, see, in with Ramadan in the West, a lot of people, they put focus on the community and coming together as a community, and getting together, and we all eat together, we all enjoy ourselves, and then after that we all pray together, which is a beautiful concept, but it's not the concept that you see throughout the past and how the people were. In fact, the people were more uh, seclusion based more than anything else, where they wanted to be alone and they wanted to focus the month on worship. And the Eid is when we all get together and we have fun and we eat, and we can joke and we can laugh, and we can do all the things that are halal for us to do and to participate in, and we can enjoy ourselves. But throughout the month of Ramadan, they were serious. So even in the Dammaj, you see like maybe only the first 10 nights you might get it. The first 10 days or 10 nights, you might get invited to somebody's house. And the majority of the time, the food is very, very, very simple. I mean, I've gone to people's houses and eaten nothing but scrambled eggs with a piece of bread. I've gone to people's houses and had nothing, where the brother had nothing to eat, but he made this like obviously his family made it, not him. It's like a soup that was made out of tamar hindi, which is tamarind in English, right? So the brother was from Hadramaut, and he invited me and another brother from Britain to his house. And when we were eating, and he brought out this soup, and he gave us some bread. He said, "Tafadhal." Of course, and overseas, whenever they say "tafadhal," that means that go ahead, start eating. And he didn't eat with us. He just sat back, and we were eating, and he just kind of like watched. He just chilled out. So we were talking with him, chit chatting and everything. And then I'm sitting there the whole time, like, right. I'm like, all right, mashallah, that was some good soup. I'm thinking like, where's the food? And then the brother that I was with, he looked at me and said, "Come on, let's go." I said, "What do you mean, let's go?" "Let's go." "Yeah, we haven't eaten yet." He said, "Let's go." So he told the brother, he said, "Nahnu nasta'dinuk." Because you always, whenever you want to leave as a guest, you always do like this form of listi'dhan. Listi'dhan, it means that you're seeking the person's permission to leave, because obviously he's got women in the house. You just can't get up and leave his house. So he goes and makes sure that the path is clear for you to leave. So the brother looked at him and said, "Nahnu nasta'dinuk." So I'm waiting for him to look at him and say, "No, no, 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 wait, wait, wait." But he didn't say anything. He said, "Yeah, tafadhal, tafadhal." And he let us out. So I was like, "SubhanAllah, what was that about?" It's like, then he told me, he said, "Akhi," he said, the brother was showing us, like, I mean, that's, if you stayed any longer, we would have embarrassed him, because he didn't have anything else to give us. That's all he had to give us. It's all the food that he had in his house was that tamar hindi and the bread. So he was basically, that's why he was telling us, he didn't eat with us because he just wanted us to eat quick and leave. So a lot of the people, they didn't have the types of resources to, like, really invite you over and feed you. So the month was not really about eating. If we ate at the masjid, if we broke our fast at the masjid, and Ramadan in Dammaj is the only time that you ever got to eat chicken was in Ramadan and the two Eids. If you weren't invited, to somebody's house, they give you chicken throughout. For the Eid al-Fitr, you get chicken. Sometimes you get meat. It depends on the situation and how, because the dawah is it's a poor dawah, So, and maybe Eid al-Adha, maybe you get meat, maybe you're not. If not, you get chicken for the Eid, and you get chicken for the Ayyam at-Tashriq. And then after that, it's just back to the regular food. So what we used to eat, like, regularly, if you ate with the students in the masjid, in the morning, you got this big plate. It's about like that big. And it's full of just watered down beans. The white beans, like, they cook the white beans with tomato paste and a bunch of water. And each person gets one piece of bread, and that plate gets put down with 10 students. And 10 students eat from that plate. And that's it. Lunchtime comes around, they put down a plate of rice and with some potatoes in it and some tomato paste. That's it. 10 students eat from that. At night is a repetition of breakfast. So whatever we ate at breakfast, we just eat the same thing again at night. The same beans with the same bread. So, I mean, you have the option of eating with the students, or you have the option of just cooking for yourself. If you cook for yourself, you have to go get like a big gas container, a cylinder, gas cylinder, and you have to just cook in your house. And that's what I did later on when I was in Dammaj, where I started cooking my own food because it's just the food in the dawa, the food from the dawa, which is the what we ate at the masjid. It just like you eat it all the time, your stomach's just gonna be messed up all the time. Because they put the food up on the while we're in the class. So for example, like the lunch with the rice, they're putting the food out on up above the masjid, on the roof of the masjid. They're putting the food out. Now, keep in mind that the masjid is in the desert. It's desert. Behind the masjid is a wadi, where it's just all sand. So it's a sandy environment, and then on top of that, they're putting the food out. So and they keep it out until the students come up, and then they start distributing the food. And once they see like 10, then they'll go around and count each group of people, and as long as there are 10 people, they give you the food. So I mean, it's like that. I mean, all throughout the year, it's just rice and beans, rice and beans, rice and beans. There's no chicken, there's no meat, there's none of that. So when Ramadan comes, you know, we got to actually eat chicken every night, but we get one chicken split up between 10 people, and it's not a game. It's every man for himself. I mean, we're brothers, and we love for our brother what we want for ourselves, and until it came to chicken. When it came to chicken, it's like every man for himself. And we, brothers, they just, like as soon as that plate goes down, there's no waiting. You just throw your hands in and you start, trying to get as much chicken as you can and eat as fast as you can, because if you don't, it's game over. I remember one time was a Malaysian brother, if I'm not mistaken, his name was Hassan, but I could be wrong. He had just got the Dammaj. He just came from Malaysia. You could see like he still had like long hair, and he had this like demeanor, like he used to listen to like Nirvana or something back in the '90s. So he had that type of like a grungy, heavy metal listening type demeanor. And he's just like, he came in, he thinking, okay, he's thinking he's still in Malaysia. So it was one day we actually had chicken. I think maybe it was Juma. I don't know. I don't know what the case. Sometimes with their guests, if the dawah has some guests like from tribal people or even some of the different shuyukh, they're visiting the Maj and they're doing like muhadarat, they're doing talks, so they might give us chicken that day. Maybe it just, like I said, it just depends on how much money the dawah has, because normally it just relies on people, just donations from people. So it wasn't funded like that. So sometimes we had it, sometimes we didn't. So this day we had chicken. And Hassan, he goes and he grabs the whole leg of the chicken. And he starts talking to me. He's like, yeah, Malaysia. And as he's talking, one of the Yemeni kids just came and just snatched the chicken right out of his hand. And I'm like, the whole time he's talking to me, I'm just like shaking my head. I'm eating, akhi. I'm not, I'm already a seasoned veteran at this food game. And he's like, what? He's like, they just snatched the chicken out my hands. Like, yeah, akhi, if you don't shut up and start eating, they about to snatch this chicken off this plate. You better start eating right now. Talk later. We could talk later, but right now, this is every man for himself. You're not gonna eat like this every day. So by the time he actually put his hand in the plate, there was no chicken left. So that's it. So I mean, and it depends on who you sit with, because you can sit with the Indonesians, you can sit with the Somalis, you can sit with the Yemenis. So if you sit with the Yemenis, you just, like I said, it's savagery 101. And everybody's just like, everybody's just gonna dive in, and nobody cares if all you got is a piece of the skin. It's just game over. In Ramadan, I used to eat with the Somalis. Allah yahfadhum. Because the Somalis, they used to always talk about Somalia. And then because these are not like, these are like the Somalis from Somalia. Like they came from Somalia on those boats that crossed the Red Sea. So these are like, I'm not talking about like, like we had like different Somalis, like the Somalis that were like lived in America or lived in Britain. But these were the proper Somalis. So they sit there and talk about Somalia and how they used to eat so much meat, and this is not meat, this is chicken. And I'm like, so while they're talking, I'm just eating, akhi. So that's probably the time that I used to get the most food in, was actually eating with the Somalis. Because they wouldn't really eat a lot. They would eat a little bit and they just throw it, and then I just go in and just finish it up for them. Because like I said, they would just say, this is not meat. In Somalia, we have meat. And they throw it down and I just start eating. So, jazakallah khair. But And that's just how, I mean, that's like how the food was. So I mean, most of the time you're just hungry. Imagine you're just hungry, like you're hungry all the time, and it's not like it's something that just becomes a part of your nature. So I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like hunger all the time. And then this is the way that the shaitan used to get a lot of people to get them to leave. Was that you start remembering like, oh, I gave up Taco Bell and Pizza Hut and all this stuff just to come here in the middle of the desert and eat watered down beans and dirt in my rice and fight over like skin of chicken and a little piece of chicken. you know. So I mean, but alhamdulillah, you just have to be patient. It's just over, and I like to say that you get used to it, but you don't. You do not get used to it. You don't get used to being hungry, especially when you've been accustomed to like being pampered in the West. It's very very difficult. It's with us, it's like we have to. It's double time because the poorest person in America eats way better than and then probably I wouldn't say the poorest person, like the homeless type people, because they don't eat. They spend all their money on alcohol. But the people that actually are poor that eat, that spend their money on food and not on drugs and alcohol, they still eat better than a lot of the middle class people in a country like Yemen. So because it's just the amount of resources that we have available in the West and the type, especially back in when I went to Yemen, So this is like at the end of the '90s. So I actually got to Yemen before George Bush even became the president. So, I mean, when I got there, I found out that he was the president. So this was still when the economy was just great and everything was very cheap in America. You could just eat meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it wouldn't hurt your pockets. You go to a fast food restaurant. We used to go to like Taco Bell for like $12, man, buy a whole bag of tacos. But now it's just like obviously the situation is completely different now. But coming from that type of background and going there, especially that I got there in Ramadan, so it's just yeah, it requires a lot of patience. And like I said, I like to say that okay, you get used to it. You don't get used to it. You're hungry. You're hungry. Your body's gonna let you know that, and it affects your energy levels. So if you're not eating properly, it's hard to memorize. It's hard to do a lot of the things that you have to do as a student of knowledge if you're hungry all the time, especially if you're really, really hungry, you know. And I mean, there's people have different situations. I mean, my situation got so bad in Yemen and Dammaj at one point that some youth, like I don't know, they may be 14, 15 years old, maybe 18, because it's hard to tell with a lot of the Yemenis how old they are. They could have been 21 for all I care. So for all I know. But they came up to me and gave me like they saw my situation and they're like, "You're from America?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Here, take this. This is all the money we have." I think it was like 100 or 200 Yemeni riyals, which is like basically it's like a dollar and a half, maybe a little less than a dollar and a half. And they're like, "Here, just take this, man. You look like you need it more than we do." So then I went to the store and bought like a Indomie, just so I didn't have to eat the beans that night. And anybody that lived overseas, you know what Indomie is. If you haven't lived overseas, you don't know what Indomie is. Allahumma musta'an, you're missing out. I don't know. So it's the Indonesian version of ramen noodles for the people that live in the West, but it's a lot better. It's a lot more delicious than ramen noodles. So that was like our treat. If we had money, we'd either get a chicken from the restaurant, and that's what I used to do. Like maybe twice a year, my mother she'd send like maybe $100, $150, like twice, and that's it. That's all the money I had throughout the year. So, and sometimes the brothers from Jacksonville they send money from time to time, like $100, $200 a year. So like all together, I might have like $400, $500 throughout the whole year. And once that money came, I would just go to the store, not to the store, to the restaurant, and I would buy a whole chicken. I would go to my room. I would turn off all the lights and lock the door, and just start eating. And I would eat that whole chicken, and I would not come out. It's like that was it. I'm done for the day. I would not answer the door for nobody. I just wanted to have I just wanted to have my face just full of chicken grease and my hands full of chicken. I didn't no rice, no. I just wanted the chicken, and I would because they did this like like a rotisserie type. I don't know what you call it in English. It's some shawaya. Oh man, and it's like that's it. That's all I. Or sometimes they had the madfun where they put it inside of a pit with fire, like a with a hatab, which is like firewood, a type of tree that they used to cut down in Yemen, and they would put the chicken in tinfoil and put it inside this pit with this, and they cook it from Fajr all the way up until they did this only for Jum'ah though. So I had to get the money on Thursday for me to do this because otherwise I just buy the mashwi, But but this one, I mean, like literally, you open up the tinfoil and the chicken's just falling off the bones. So delicious, so you could taste the firewood, So I just killed a whole chicken by myself, and then I like later on, like once that digested, like I started feeling full. Then I go like one of the brothers, I go take him. We go eat at the restaurant like the next day. You just go get like a half a chicken together and we eat, and that's it. Maybe 6 months we don't have chicken again. So I mean, that's just how it was. So Ramadan was no different. Like I said, in Ramadan, we used to have the chicken. That's about it. And as far as like everything else is concerned in Ramadan and Dammaj, it was just all about ibadah. Everybody's just busy. Most of the people, they just stay in the masjid all day. They don't leave. So you have everybody's off doing, everybody's just be reading the Quran. But you got one person, he's going to be reading the Quran like every 3 days. Another person that might be reading the Quran every other day. You might have another. I knew one brother from Ethiopia. Sit down and just read the Quran the whole day, like from the 13 hours. He'd finish. He started at Fajr, and he'd finish after the class in Sahih Muslim. After Salat al Isha, he would finish the whole Mus'haf. And I would sit there and watch him, because it's a very nice brother. So I'll be like, and I asked him about it. He's like, yeah, I finished the whole Mus'haf today, like in a day. And he would just sit there and just read, looking at the ceiling, like shaking his head like this. He would read. He never looked at the Mus'haf. He never looked at the Mus'haf the whole time. He kept his head and he kept turning the pages, and he's looking at the roof, at the ceiling. And he never looked down at the Mus'haf. So I mean, and then you have like the other people, the people that do tawaf, because the masjid is big. So you got people that hold the Mus'haf and they'll just walk around the masjid. Because if they, they don't want to get lazy. If they sit down, so you might have like after Fajr. At Fajr, it starts off with like one person, then two people. Next thing you know, it's just like maybe 100 people. 100 people going. It's the back pillars of the masjid. So it's towards the door of the masjid. You just got like, anywhere from 50 to 100 people just going in circles. It's packed. And everybody just got the Mus'haf in their hand. They're reading. And then the other people, they're just sitting all over the place. Some people, they go out to the desert. So, I mean, that's it, And a lot of the people that, especially the single people, they would just stay in the masjid all day. They wouldn't leave. They would stay all day. They go to sleep in the masjid. They read Quran in the masjid. So I would honestly say that there is not an hour of the day, not a second of the day, except for somebody. I mean, this is probably in general on a normal days, outside of Ramadan. There is always somebody in that masjid doing something. It's almost like the house of Dawood alayhi salam, where one person was always up praying all the time. And in Dammaj, you always had at least one person. At least, I mean, most of the times it's way more than one, but at least a person was reading Quran at all times. So some people, they go to bed early and they get up at the last part of the night and they pray in the masjid. This is outside of Ramadan. And we had a guy, his name was Walid. I don't know what, I mean, inshallah khair. I mean, I've heard bad. I don't know what happened with Walid. But anybody that was in Dammaj at this time, they know this brother. He stayed in i'tikaf for like a year. And he came out of i'tikaf, and then he did a halaf, and he basically he did another, like, if Allah gives me this, and I'll go back in the i'tikaf for another year. So then he did it for another year. So basically, the whole, if you come into the masjid in Dammaj, if you go right down straight from the door, you have the tent of Walid. Like, Walid just had his tent year round. He was in i'tikaf all year round. And he would, everybody would go to him in the masjid that was sleeping in the masjid, and they would tell him what time they wanted him to wake them up. Now, as long as I know this brother, he never ever wrote anything down. So you had at least, I would say at least 20, 30 people that would tell him, yeah, Waleed, wake me up at this time. And you go to sleep. You sleep in the masjid. And wallahi, I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it, but maybe his memory was just supercomputer like that. I don't know. But he would wake up each person exactly at the time that they told him to wake him up. So there was like one period that I would just stay in the masjid. I didn't feel like being in the room, by myself. So I would go sleep in the masjid, and I just tell like, hey, Waleed, wake me up at 3 o'clock. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3, and right there on the dot, he's standing over you. Like, you better wake up. I'm gonna pour water on you. So I was like, you get up, But he did that for everybody in the masjid, and not everybody. Some people they got up on their own because this is before smartphones, So you didn't have alarms. You didn't like people weren't coming into the masjid with alarm clocks. Waleed was the alarm clock. So even like when you're sleeping in the rooms, you just wake up when you hear the adhan, the first adhan, because obviously you had the two adhans. As it came in the hadith, in the hadith of Ibn Maktoum, who you adhan, and it was for the tanbih of the people, to eat and drink, before Bilal's adhan. So once Bilal called the adhan, that was the actual adhan for Fajr. So there was two adhans in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Dammaj the same thing. So you wake up at the first adhan if you didn't wake up before that, So generally that's what woke you up because you could hear it, it's just loud. Or you woke up with the Shia chanting on the microphones inside the, I don't know what it is, but it sounded like a bunch of banshees. They used to get out on the microphones every morning before Fajr and start all this screaming on the microphone. So you actually hear it from Sada in Dammaj. And in Ramadan, it's even louder. So that's a long time. So, you could wake up to that too. But that's, prefer to wake up to the Adhan al-Awwal, inshallah. But, but obviously inside of Ramadan, they had the salat was with the sheikh. So it wasn't like Waleed didn't have to wake people up. So basically in the first 10 days, they would start praying about 1 o'clock in the morning, like 1 o'clock late at night, after midnight. And they would pray all the way to Fajr, all the way until like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes before Fajr, so the people can go home and get some suhoor and then start the fast. So probably I would say this is the first 10 nights of Ramadan. I'd say like maybe they were praying, like 7, 8 pages per rak'ah. So if you think about it, it's like anywhere from like 6 to 8 pages, let's say. So let's just say 7. So it's about like and of course you pray like the sheikh would start off with 2 quick rak'ahs. So this is how you knew that they were started, because you hear on the microphone, because they only turn the microphone on for those first 2. So you turn on the microphone, you hear Allahu Akbar, and they'll pray something quick, something that you would basically pray in the sunnah. Because this is the sunnah of the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever he prayed, he used to start off with rak'atain khafifatain. So this is the hadith. It came in Ibn Abbas. It also came with the command from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Abi Hurairah. If you pray at night, to start off with rak'atain khafifatain, with two quick rak'ahs. It's supposed to like warm you up, right? And that's the narration where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed 13. Some of the ulama say that the 13 was included those 2 quick ones that he prayed. Just pray those quickly to warm up, and then he would, stand and pray for a long time. So like I said, at that point, it's probably like anywhere between 6 to 8 pages. So like I said, if we say 7, then that means with the 8 raka'at, they prayed about 56 pages per night in the first 10 nights. Then after the first 10 nights, the time has started coming down. So it started like 1 o'clock. And then after the next 10 nights, it starts at like 12 o'clock, 11:30. As we got closer and closer to the last 10 nights, the time for the prayer got closer and closer to Isha. Now, not closer and closer to Isha, like, okay, they pray for like an hour, like, like what you see in the masajid throughout the world. But they would pray all the way until Fajr. So it was like 6 to 8 pages in the first 10 nights of Ramadan. It's like 10 pages per rak'ah in the second 10 nights of Ramadan. And then don't even ask about the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And the last 10 nights of Ramadan, uh, with the exception of the odd nights, all right, you have enough time, like, because we still have all the durus. Still were happening, right? So you go, for dhuhr, you pray dhuhr, you sit in the dars, and it's either tafsir ibn kathir or it was jami' sahih, mimma laysa fi sahihain, the Sheikh Muqbil rahimahullah. One day this, one day that. All right. Friday we didn't have the class dhuhr on Fridays only. After Asr, we pray Salat al-Asr, and we have the Dars in Bukhari. So even during Ramadan, the students are still expected to memorize the hadith, get up and recite the hadith, and that's that. Normally, outside of Ramadan, there's the last Dars of the night is between Maghrib and Isha. So in this class, the Sheikh will teach Sahih Muslim. If people came to visit Dammaj from other villages, they would get up and they would ask questions, and the Sheikh would answer the questions. After he would read the hadith in Sahih Muslim and do like a quick like little ta'liqat, and then the students would get up and they ask him the questions. If there were no questions, then we had like other books, like the Sheikh would teach different books. I mean, he taught like Kitab Tawheed, Baykuniya, taught like a lot of different smaller books. It just depends on what. And that changes, but Sahih Muslim is the book that just like it got finished and it started again, finished, started again, and it just kept on going like that. Same thing with Bukhari. Tafsir because all the books they just once the Sheikh finished them, started again. So when I was there, they had just finished Bukhari. Like that was the first time in Dammaj Bukhari was finished. So it took I don't know how many years. It took a long time. And they finished Bukhari. So I was there when they restarted Bukhari. And also, I was there also with the restarting of Tafsir ibn Kathir. So, alhamdulillah. But, yeah, and I think the Sheikh probably, I think he finished Bukhari one more time. He finished it one more time before the war broke out in 2011. And then those wars that went on until the brothers left Dammaj at the beginning of 2014, he finished Bukhari again and he started it again. And I think he actually got up to the Kitab. When they left Dammaj in 2014, they were on Kitab al-Jihad in Sahih Bukhari. So when the Sheikh came down to Sana'a and he was teaching in Jami' al-Fatih and Asbahi in Sana'a, that's what he was teaching. He continued the durus from Dammaj. And he kept on going in Sana'a. So he was teaching from Kitab al-Jihad. So it's like actually the war broke out in 2013 when they were on Kitab al-Jihad. So that time he was also teaching Jami' Bayan Ilmi wa Fadlihi Ibn Abd al-Barr rahimahullah. He finished that on the last day, like right before they left Dammaj. He finished that book. He finished teaching the whole book right before they left. Like literally, like maybe a day or two, like just days before they left out, like he finished it. So, and that's so you had to sit in those durus. But in the Ramadan, Sahih Muslim was not between Maghrib and Isha, Maghrib and Isha, because obviously the people they go home and they eat, or the people go upstairs on the top of the masjid they eat. So, so in that time, Sahih Muslim was after, but actually, if I remember correctly, we didn't eat on top of the masjid. The last time I ate with the students in Ramadan, we ate below the masjid. We didn't eat on top of the masjid. We ate below the masjid. So I can't remember if that was every Ramadan or not. But I remember eating below because with the chicken and everything. And that was, like I said, we had chicken in Ramadan. So alhamdulillah. But so anyways, so we had the class after Salat al-Isha. So during the last 10 nights of Ramadan, you had enough time. Once the Sheikh finished the class in Sahih Muslim, you had enough time to go to the restaurant, order a tea. The tea gets to you, and the microphone cuts on. So that's when they started praying, just like that. And this is the even nights. The odd nights is basically the Sheikh would leave the kursi, Allahu Akbar. and start praying, and all the way up until, like I said, about 30 minutes before 30 minutes before Fajr, and they will pray the whole night. On these nights, the last 10 nights, the biggest night, obviously the 27th. Like the 27th, and nobody went for tea. Everybody just like, wherever you sat in the dars, that's where you prayed. And that was your spot until Fajr. So literally the Sheikh finishes the class, stand up, Allahu Akbar. And that's it. All the way up until like right 30 minutes before Fajr. On that night, in the 27th, they would finish 8 juz of the Quran. 8 juz. So you're looking at 140 to 160 pages of the Quran. And 8 rak'ahs, that's like basically a juz every rak'ah. And that's no joke. One night, I remember in Ramadan, there was a khusuf, so the eclipse. So I said, okay, I was going, like, it was close to suhoor, maybe like an hour or so before suhoor. So I was like, Allahu musta'an. And then we saw the eclipse, and then they said a salat jami'ah, which is the nida, whenever you see the eclipse, that you say as-salat jami'ah, that everybody congregate for salat. So we go to the masjid, we look, how are we going to pray? And it's like, it's like I say, like an hour and a half before suhoor, and we went. And anybody that knows the prayer for the eclipse, like I said, this is Ramadan. Like, the Imam, he goes, Allahu Akbar, he prays. He reads for a long time. He recites for a long time. And as Allahu Akbar, he goes to the ruku'. He goes into the ruku' for a very long time. Then he comes out of the ruku' and he continues recitation. He doesn't go into sujood. So there's 2 rak'ahs of standing. You go into the ruku', you come out. Then the second time you go back into the ruku', you come out of the ruku', then you go into sujood. And you do the same for the second rak'ah. So when we went and said Allahu Akbar, the Sheikh, he recited Surah Al-Fatiha. And then he's like, Alif Lam Mim, Dhalika al-Kitabu la rayba fihi. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, oh no, he's not going to do this. He's going to recite all of Surah Al-Baqarah. But because of the time, he didn't do it. He recited like I'll say like a juz and a little bit more. He went past the juz, right? And then we went into ruku'. And we were in ruku' for so long that I really wish that I did not go to the masjid. It was painful. Like, all like my body, like we stayed in ruku' for so long that I was like, man, I was like, subhanAllah. I didn't think I thought like, like how they used to say about, the Salaf, like they would go into like a ruku' and they say he called Nasi. Like he forgot that he's in ruku', like he forgot what to do. And then he come out. And then he recited in the second rak'ah. Now keep in mind, we haven't gone in the sujood yet. He recited another juz. So, and then we finally went into sujood after the next ruku' and then the sujood, and we were in sujood so long, my head started hurting. It was really painful. Because the carpet in Dammaj is just carpet and cement floor. There's no padding or nothing there. It's just like you're just doing sujood on a thin piece of carpet, this real cheap carpet from Saada, and a cement floor, so, and then we came back out, he finished up Surah Al-Baqarah, we went into ruku', we came out, he started Surah Ali Imran. And I was like, and then he just finished up, he gave like a quick khutbah, and we all had to run to the house. All had to run to the house and to eat, because literally, like we had like 10 minutes left. And we just like, I was like, forget food. Food's not even, I just started guzzling water, because obviously it's a desert. It's very dry. So I just started drinking water. And that was that. We started fasting. After Fajr, like you just collapse, there's nothing, like, what are you going to do after that? So, and like I said, the 27th was probably the one night that there was that was always, each year, every single year that I was in Dammaj. And even when I left Dammaj, we call up the brothers in Dammaj and say, how many ajizat, how many How many parts of the Quran did you guys finish on the 27th this year? It's always 7 or 8, 7 or 8, 7 or 8. Obviously, as the time for like summer came and the nights became smaller, it was like 6, 7 juz. But during the winter time, it was always like around 7 to 8 juz. It depends on who was reciting, because the Sheikh, he recited a little bit faster. Sheikh Ahmed Wasabi was a little bit slower. So like they would like do a little bit less. With when Sheikh Yahya was doing when he was leading the salat, it was he would be much faster, like a lot faster, so they would recite more. And both of them, when they were doing the salat, it's like a tree. They didn't budge. They did not budge the whole entire salat. Like everybody else is you got people going down, they're sitting on their knees and getting back up, and people just like trying to move around and get comfortable because it's painful. It's a very, very painful way to pray. And I remember like one time it's like prayed what is Surah Al-Baqarah in the first rak'ah. Surah Al-Baqarah, kamilan. So you're in pain. It's like for me, I'm done. Khalas. Alhamdulillah. I'm finished for the night. I'll go pray witr and go to sleep. I'll go get something to eat, then after Fajr go to sleep. But yeah, it was no joke. Everything was about worship. So everything was about recitation of the Quran, and everything was about, getting up and praying at night. It was not about let's get together, let's have fun, let's relax. In the last 10 nights, everybody, they put their tents up in the masjid. And this was before the war, obviously. Once the war started, nobody was allowed to you couldn't put the tents up. But back in those days, the people get like this plastic, like this tarp, and they put the ropes from the pillars. They like tie strings from the pillars, and everybody has their little tents, and they stay in the etikaf for like the whole 10 nights, the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Like I said, it's just like, you see the masjid is it's packed, and they're praying like that all the time. I don't know. I heard the story, and I'm not sure. The person that I heard it from was a brother in Saudi, he's a Yemeni brother, that when the Sheikh, he came to Riyadh, they actually they requested from him that he prayed the way that they prayed in Dammaj, and he prayed like them. He prayed like that one night. I don't know. It's like a handful of nights that he prayed like this with them, and you would think, right, Saudi Arabia, the people are eating kebsa all the time. They're not going to be able to pray like this, for hours and hours and hours. So the Sheikh prayed, and the next night more people came, and the next night more people came. And they actually requested that he remain praying, but he couldn't. He was only in Riyadh for a certain period of time. He was because he was staying in Mecca. So sometimes you have to go to Riyadh because Riyadh is the capital. So if you have any paperwork or anything like that, you have to go there, and then you just go back to Mecca. But that's the way that he prayed. And when he's in Mecca, he prayed in the Haram. All the students of Dammaj that were in Mecca at the time, everybody just went to the Haram and prayed in the Haram during Ramadan. So yeah, but like. The whole atmosphere of Ramadan in Dammaj, it was just like, let's do it. Let's get this done. Let's get this Quran read. Let's get let's stand up at night. That was the environment. There was not an environment of let's get together, let's hang out. You're invited to my house. We're gonna eat until we can't breathe anymore, and then we're gonna stand up very lazily and pray very quickly. No. Everything was all centered around the worship. The last 10 nights, it was like, if you were in the last 10 nights of Ramadan and you were in one of the restaurants in Dammaj, people stared at you like you're like strange, because like, what are you doing? Like, people are praying in the masjid, you're sitting in the restaurant. You'd be the only one in there. Seriously, you'd be the only one in the restaurant. Of course, students, they come out, at different intervals, because like literally, as long as they pray, you got to keep in mind that you have time. After like if they finish like rak'atain, right? The first 2 rak'ahs, right? You could go out, get some coffee, drink some coffee, come back in, and still catch the next rak'ah. They're still gonna be in the next rak'ah. So so you get students doing that, going out, getting some tea, coming back in. But generally, like while they were praying, you wouldn't see anybody. It was just empty. It's just empty. It's completely empty. Like the whole place was empty. Everybody was in the masjid. Or they just stay at home, they won't go to the masjid, but the majority of the people, they were in the masjid. So and that's how it was. And then once Eid came, then it's just like everybody relaxed. And so I mean, we do different things. Go to the mountains. Like probably the best Eid that I ever had was me and the brother, is a brother Yaqub. Allah yahfadhu, Allah yubarak fihi. Allah yujazihi khairan. Allah is one of the most patient brothers that I know. One of the funniest brothers that I know. It's my neighbor in Dammaj. The best neighbor I ever had. Grouchiest neighbor I ever had also. But anyways, so like one year, like, he got this idea that we're gonna go buy these they had these little chocolates with a little, like a cow on them, right? They were called Happy Cow or something stupid like this, right? They're little caramel chocolates. So I think we bought like a whole bag of these Happy Cows, and because there's mountains all surrounding the match, and there's like one big mountain. It's like a huge. It's very high, and it's very steep, and the way that you have to get to the top of the mountain is it's very dangerous. Even one time I went up that mountain by myself. One time, and that's why I was like, yeah, let's go up this mountain. Because I knew how interesting it was. It's beautiful. It's beautiful because the type of rock, it's like this black granite. I don't know what type of rock it is because I'm not like a rock collector or nothing like that. But it's just beautiful. It's slick. It's like slick rock, and it's just so beautiful. And then like the one time I was up there, I was on the cliff of the mountain because you have to walk by this cliff, and you have to go around, and that's how you get to the top. There's no other way unless you go all the way around, which you're gonna risk. Like they got cobras, mountain lions, hyenas. So you're not just gonna, you try to take the easiest path. But this cliff, because it's a cliff and it just falls straight down. So the water, when it rains, it's just dripping off. It's not like a waterfall, but you see the water just dripping off, and then there's a puddle down. We're still like, even where that puddle is at, we're still like halfway up the mountain at that point. So one time I was just hanging out on the cliff, and I was looking down, and I saw this big dog came and started drinking the water. I was like, oh, that's cool. Dog came and climbed the mountain with me. I was like, wait a second. I'm on this mountain. There's no dogs on this mountain. That's a hyena. It's a big hyena. It's like, he started looking around like, oh, man. I jumped off, like I got around the cliff because you only got like this much space to walk around the mountain. And if you fall, you're dead. If you're not dead, you would die because who's going to find you? You'd have to rely. If you did not die on the fall, you would just die because you'd be stuck there. Who's going to find you? Who's going to come up that mountain and find you? Nobody people don't just go around walking in the mountains for fun. You get shot up there, because even the Bedouins might shoot you. Happened to some French brothers one time. They said they were up in the mountain, and he was like standing next to a rock, and the bullet just went and hit the rock behind him. And the Bedouin told him, he said, if you don't get out of here, the next one's going to go right through your head. And he left. They said, Khalas. He meant to shoot next to him. He shot right between the brothers, and it hit the rock. And he just said the rock just exploded next to him. He said, so that was it. So it's not like something you just go around and just walk up in the mountains, because they got Bedouins like actually live in tents with their family, and they're very protective of their family. So if you're around in that area, they'll tell you to leave. If they think that you're a threat, then they're gonna shoot you. What are they gonna find? They're not gonna find nothing. You got hyenas up there. You got chimpanzees or baboons. I don't know, the ones. The big, the tall monkeys that have no hair on their backside. Which one? Whatever ones. I think the back. No. I don't know what they are. All right, big monkeys, man. Whatever it is, man. If your body's in those mountains, it's gonna get eaten. It's just, your body's not gonna remain. So if they shoot you in the mountains, or you die, or you fall and get hurt in the mountains, you're gone. So when I saw the hyena, I had to run to the top and like go around this cliff, get to the top, and then I went down the back of the mountain to go back out to the Dammaj. So that way I wouldn't come across the path of the hyena. But with the brother though, we went on Eid. Alhamdulillah, we didn't see anything. No snakes, no hyenas, no nothing. I guess because so many people were out in the mountains. Because it's Yemen. Back in those days you could literally go to Sa'da and buy like hand grenades. So some people would actually go and take a hand grenade and throw it off the mountain instead of buying fireworks. So I think the hyenas, they would go and hide during Eid. So I don't, we didn't see anything up in the mountains. And we just sit up on the mountain eating this happy cow chocolate, and just chit chatting about nothing. And that's the best time. Wallahi, the best time that we ever had. Just to sit up on Eid. No concern of this dunya. No, all like just taking this for like, that, okay, you gone through Ramadan and you put in all this effort and all this you went through the hunger, the thirst. You continue with the durus, you're memorizing the hadith, and you're reading the Quran, and you're praying at night, and you're going through all this. And then now you could just sit on top of this mountain that overlooks all of Dammaj. Oh, you can see Sa'da from the top of this mountain, and just eating happy cow chocolates. And this is like the best time I've ever had in my life. And I would give everything in the world except my family, obviously, but anything that I had in this world to get that back. Just that little happy time. Here, like, we live in America and, you have everything that you want. And just open up an app on your phone and you can just order anything. You want pizza, you want burgers, you want Mexican food, Chinese food, whatever. You have everything at your disposal, but you're not happy. You're not happy. You work and you try to struggle and strive for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what brings you happiness. So sitting on top of that mountain on that day on Eid, just eating those little happy cow. And this was the last Eid that we had before the war with the Houthis broke out. Because the Houthis, they started fighting against the government in July of 2004. So this was the last Eid. This was Eid al-Adha, if I'm not mistaken. It had to be Eid al-Adha because it was the last Eid that we were allowed to go up to the mountains. Because once the fighting with the Houthis broke out, we weren't allowed to go to the mountains anymore. Because obviously you go to the mountains, you might not be coming back. That's what happened with a brother, Qayyim rahimahullah, and he's up on the mountains on guard duty, and the Houthis, they ambushed him and killed him in 2005. Killed him and shot another brother, Samir, 5 times. They shot Qayyim, Allah yarhamu, and they shot him straight through the heart. They just ambushed him on the mountain. So you don't know what's going to happen when you go up to those mountains. So, but in those days, obviously, this was before the war broke out. So we just went all over the place, So we go up in the mountains. We go we go out running. Sometimes we had like the brother Abbas, the British brother, very nice brother. Used to go out. He used to do boxing and stuff like that. We used to go out and run with him. Then he had like the pads and the jump ropes and all that. So we do like little boxing stuff. Just things that just like relax, take your mind off of just like, because it's just, in Dammaj, it's like what you're doing the same thing every day. So even when that brother Qayyim, the brother that got killed, the French brother, Allah yarhamu, Allah have mercy on him. When he came to Dammaj, he was like, I don't know, he was like a karate champion in France. So I don't know how many degree black belt he was, but it was like he was a karate instructor. He had his own, like he was teaching at his own school, and he's a champion, like an actual, like he won trophies in these tournaments. So he just opened up a class and taught the brothers karate, because you need that stress relief, because it's just every day you're just sitting down and you're just memorizing the hadith, reading the Quran, memorizing hadith, memorizing the Quran, going through durus. If you're going through the dars of the sheikh, or you're going through other durus with the students, either you're studying nahwu, studying aqidah, tawheed, fiqh, whatever it is you're studying, but your whole life is just basically revolving around the masjid and the library, and the bookstores. And that's it, like your life is just in this circle. So you need those types of things just like to get your mind off of stuff, So like we go out and do karate with Qayyim, we go do boxing with the brother, just as a stress relief, nothing like people would take it seriously, Even in my room, I had, because Qayyim, Allah yarhamu, he had a long pull-up bar. He bought a brother's room that had the pull-up bar in the room. And he didn't want it, so he gave it, he sold it. He just gave it to me. He didn't sell it to me. He said, here, you take it. Because I used to go to his room and I would do the pull-ups because the bar would go all the way across the room. So I would just do the pull-ups, and that's what I did. I took the bar and I put holes in my wall it ran all the way from the door, the entrance to the room, all the way through the bathroom. So, I just had this and I just sit there just I'll be reading Quran and just get up and start doing pull-ups. And everybody that came into my room, they just come in and start doing pull-ups because you need that type of stress relief, So like on Eid, that's what we did. We just go up to the mountains, come home, we sit for the class, and if we made it back, I mean, because it depends on how long it took us to get off that mountain. Because to get up that mountain, it takes a long time. Because the way that you have to go, you have to come around, and then you get to the top. Coming off it is a lot easier, But if you want to see the beautiful sights, you have to go the long way. So I say like it probably took us like from after the Salat al-Eid, we finished about like 7, let's say 8 o'clock in the morning. Most of the time we'd be praying Dhuhr. Either we pray Dhuhr back in the rooms, or we pray Dhuhr on the mountains, because we're still on the mountain. And then go home and go to sleep. After that, you gotta sleep, because we didn't take water or nothing. We're dumb. We just took Happy Cow. So we're up on the mountain eating Happy Cow and forget the water. So by the time you get home, you're so dehydrated, you just go to sleep. After Asr, we go to the class, the Dars in Sahih Bukhari, and Asr. And every year in Dammaj, you had different students, because all these different students, they had different backgrounds. So I remember like the last 2 years I was there, there's a brother, I think his name was Zakaria, but I can't remember his brother's name. Zakaria was a Kung Fu champion. Like he used to go to the Kung Fu, doing the demonstrations and all that. And his brother was like Jackie Chan. So what they used to do, they're Jazairi, and they're from France. So they would do this coordinated fight stuff. Like they would actually coordinate fight scenes like they were in a movie. And they would go out and they on Eid, like, okay, there's 2 things on Eid, right? Number 1 was the wrestling matches. Every year the Adanese, they challenge everybody. Everybody and their mothers, it was challenged by the Adanese to wrestle. Because the Adanese, they those are some strong dudes. Those are some strong dudes. So we had a brother from Britain. His name was Hamza. He's a big brother. Very, very big brother. Very strong brother. He used to make like dumbbells out of needle cans. Both of us, we used to do the same thing. We had like these needle can dumbbells where we take the big needle can, fill it up with cement, flip it over, fill the other side up with cement, and we had these huge dumbbells. They were never even in weight, but boy, they were huge. And that's what we work out with. So Hamza was the same thing. He had the pull-up bars. He had the little, the huge needle can dumbbells. He was the one that was coming up with the idea, like he's gonna get the paint buckets and fill them up and make a bar out of like with the paint buckets. So that's how we worked out, right? So Hamza was like this, every year he's training to wrestle with the Adanese. I said, Hamza's a strong brother. I worked out with him quite a few times. That was a strong, strong brother. Adanese will whoop his butt every single year. The Adanese would sit in the room eating dried fish and rice, and they would destroy Hamza every single year. Not just Hamza, anybody. Like they wrestled each other, so to see who the strongest Adani was. So they had these wrestling matches. And the sheikh would come out and watch. We'd get up, like all the students, they'd be just in a circle. We used to get up on the rooms so we could watch, from the top. And it's just like, it's crazy. It was the best time. You can't imagine, like everybody's just cheering, go, go, go. And they're wrestling, all the dirt's flying. And the sheikh's watching. The sheikh's out there watching, just like laughing with everybody else, Everybody, you got all the big students, they come out and watch this, And then you got Zachary and his brother. They used to do these, like I said, the coordinated fighting scenes, where they would like coordinate this kung fu fight between each other. Oh, it was cool. Because like I said, his brother was like Jackie Chan. Like he could do all these flips and all this stuff. And it's just like this every year. So every year you always had somebody, some people, you had the wrestling matches every Eid. And then you had like this, like these coordinated fight scenes, or, just other people did different demonstrations. Other people that had like different martial arts skills that they used to do back in their countries, and they would just come out and just do these demonstrations and stuff. So it was beautiful, I mean, the type of thing that we used to, and like I said, it was just like, you couldn't imagine just coming out and just watching. The students were standing on the restaurant, standing on Ma'awal's shop, and Ma'awal had a little dukan, and the students were all over the buildings. And then you just see like, and the brothers wrestling in the middle, and the sheikh right there, like the sheikh got the front row seat, and you just see him like smiling and laughing with everybody. It's a beautiful sight. It's a beautiful sight just to get that relaxation. And of course, like they call the adhan for Maghrib. We're back in the masjid and we're back in the class in Sahih Muslim. So, I mean, it doesn't stop. This is like we're back. We're right back to that. During the Ayyam al-Tashriq, which is the Eid for Eid al-Adha. After the Eid al-Adha, you have the 3 days of Tashriq. Like you just see everybody outside playing football. Football, I mean like soccer. And you had the wrestling matches. You had like that was always between Asr and Maghrib, always. On the Eid, always, every year, every Eid, between Asr and Maghrib, you had those wrestling matches, and whoever else wanted to do some type of demonstrations and stuff like that, they would do it. So, and that's it. But I mean, throughout the Ramadan, it was always about worship. And like I said from the beginning, you have to keep in mind that these brothers, you follow the sunnah. And like I said, the book that I wrote, if you read the whole book, that's what we saw. That's what we saw. Whenever we read a hadith in Bukhari, you saw it. The sheikh would do it. The sheikh would do it. So whatever you read, if you read Kitab al-Siyam in Bukhari, if you read Kitab al-Siyam in Sahih Muslim, Bulugh al-Maram, or whatever book you read it in, that's the match. That's what you saw. You saw those ahadith, but you saw it in practice. Not only were the students memorizing those ahadith, but they were memorizing it and it was being practiced. And that's what Dammaj was always about. And that's what made Dammaj different than every other place to study. Because Dammaj was not just about the memorization of hadith, it was about practicing it. And we used to joke because we studied 3 books in hadith. We studied Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and we studied Jami' Sahih Mimma Laysa Fi Sahihin, which is the book of Sheikh Mubil, rahimahullah. So these 3 books, and one of these 3 books we would, like for example, one of these 3 books we might be in Kitab al-Siyam. It's not, during Ramadan we'd be on Kitab al-Siyam. Another book we might end up on Kitab al-Hajj in the time of Hajj. And we used to joke and we used to say, subhanAllah, watch, by the time we get to Kitab al-Jihad, watch what's going to happen. And like I told you, the brothers, they left Dammaj on Kitab al-Jihad. So they did what they did, alhamdulillah. A lot of brothers died, but alhamdulillah, they did what they did. And the brothers, even the first war, they were fasting. It was Ashura when the Houthis attacked them, and the brothers were fasting. And brothers like literally, and the Houthis attacked them right while they were breaking their fast. Right when they were breaking their fast, and the brothers got killed. And I know one brother, he ended up losing his jaw and his leg. His brother named Zakaria Jazairi. Allah yahfadhu. Very, very nice brother, very good brother. He used to come to my house all the time and just tell these stories, So, the stuff that he saw a long time. But they shot him with a tank. And they shot at him with a tank, and the tank hit the matras, which is the trench, and the rock exploded, and it took his whole jaw right off, clean off. So he always kept his mouth wrapped up. Even to the point when I invited him to my house for the first time, we're having chicken. I didn't even know if he could eat, because if you see when he talks, his teeth are not aligned. Because they had to like reconstruct his jaw, and this is in Yemen, so you can only get so much done. So his teeth were like, they weren't aligned. So I didn't even know if he could eat chicken. He's like, no, I can eat chicken. I eat some chicken. He ate some chicken, mashallah. He came over to my house and ate a lot of chicken. But yeah, I mean, that's how it was. It's about ibadah. The brothers there, they're serious people. I mean, just like Dammaj is just like any other place. You have different levels of people. You have people that are very serious. They're not going to play. They're not going to joke. Everything's, is deen, and they're just trying to hurry up and just get to Jannah. They don't care about this life. And then you got all the way down to the clowns, the people that don't really study. They're just there. The parents make them go there, or they're there because maybe something happened in their belly, like in Yemen. Maybe they got in trouble, so they go to Dammaj to escape getting caught from the police or something like that. So you have people that are there for different reasons, People getting kicked out of Dammaj all the time for foolishness, because sometimes the Ikhwani Muslimin used to send people to Dammaj just to cause problems, and the Shia used to do the same thing. Send people there, and when they found these people, they would teach them some manners. Let's just say there's a room these individuals were taken to, and they got taught manners, and they got put on the bus the next day, and they got kicked out of Dammaj. So, alhamdulillah, but it was always about worship. It was always about going there and just doing what you can do to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like I said from the beginning, again, I'll repeat this. It's not about going into Ramadan doing things that you've never done before, but it's about taking the things that you do outside of Ramadan and taking it to the next level. And that's what it was always about in Dammaj. It was, the Sheikh is always praying at night. He's always fasting. He's always doing all these things. He's always reading the Quran. We used to sit there and watch the Sheikh sit there and read 5 juz from the Quran every morning after Fajr, before he would go and eat breakfast and start doing his research. And he would do research from the morning all the way until the night. He'd only stop for the classes. And we watched this. We watched the other students sit in the masjid, and they just, spent hours reading the Quran first. That's how everybody's day started off. You go to the masjid, you read Quran. That's how people's day started. That was it. If you were the type of person that, you went to the masjid, you prayed Fajr, and you just left and went back to sleep, people would like look at you kind of funny, like, this person's not serious. It's not serious, So, that's just that's everybody. The masjid used to shake. It used to shake in the morning. With the amount of people, especially in the summertime. It was just packed with people reading Quran after Fajr. You couldn't imagine it. The only place that I've ever seen like it, as far as like just people in there, is but not like it. It's more is the Haram in Mecca. That's it. But just as a normal masjid that's not from the Haramain, no, I've never seen anything like that in my entire life, and I don't expect to. So I don't ever expect to see anything like that. I expect it if I go back to Yemen and sit with the students, but I would hope that, one day, inshallah, that we can have something like that for the Muslims and the West, so they can experience like what this deen is really about, the worship that really goes into these things. It's not just about just going there and just eating, curry and, curry chicken, and then going and praying 20 quick rak'ahs, this bid'ah, and then going home and thinking that you've done something. But really, really trying to give that maximum type of output and putting in that maximum effort to try to get the most out of Ramadan, so that you can come out of Ramadan and you feel like you really did something. You really feel like the sense of like some type of achievement, and it sets the tempo for the next year. So how you are in Ramadan, the amount of effort that you put into trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to see that throughout the year. If you go into Ramadan and you're trying to give the bare minimum, and then you say, oh, I want to study, I want to seek knowledge. And no, you don't. If you want to seek knowledge and you want to learn the religion and you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you with these blessings, then show it. Show it. Get up at night and pray, read Quran and do the things that you should be doing. Show it. Show that you deserve to have that blessing. Otherwise, then stop saying that. Stop saying that you want to do this, you want to do that. Show it first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give it to you, but you need to show it. So Allah musta'an. So all right, I've already made this too long. So Allah musta'an, I'm going to end this with now, inshallah. May Allah make this a month of forgiveness for all of us, inshallah. You should never say inshallah when you make dua. So just may Allah make this a month of forgiveness. Allah musta'an. وإلى هنا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.